Foreign interference has become a growing concern in Canada. Among the most pressing issues is the role of China's state-backed intelligence operations, which don't always look like traditional espionage. Instead, these efforts often involve influence campaigns, political interference, and the monitoring of diaspora communities. In this video, we'll take an evidence-based look at how Chinese intelligence operates in Canada, who is targeted, and how these activities fit into a broader strategy of foreign influence. The goal here isn't to sensationalize, but to inform, based on publicly available reports, government documents, and investigative journalism. To understand how China conducts intelligence operations in Canada, we need to start with the structure of its intelligence apparatus. At the center is the Ministry of State Security, or MSS, China's main civilian intelligence agency. It's often compared to a combination of the CIA and FBI, handling both domestic security and foreign intelligence gathering. Alongside the MSS, there's the United Front Work Department, or UFWD. This body plays a different role. It focuses on influence rather than espionage. The UFWD aims to build loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party among overseas Chinese communities, academics, and foreign politicians. What makes China's approach unique is its whole-of-society strategy. Intelligence work isn't just carried out by professional spies. It can involve business people, students, academics, or anyone with access to valuable information or networks. This decentralized model blurs the lines between the state and civilian efforts. In countries like Canada, it makes it harder to detect and counteract interference since the individuals involved often operate in seemingly legitimate roles. China's intelligence operations in Canada use a wide range of methods, many of which fall outside the traditional ideas of espionage. These activities are often subtle, sustained, and aimed at shaping the environment in ways that benefit Chinese state interests. One of the most concerning areas is political interference. There have been allegations, backed by intelligence leaks and media reports, that Chinese agents have attempted to interfere in Canadian federal elections, particularly in 2019 and 2021. This includes efforts to support certain candidates seen as sympathetic to Beijing's interests and to discredit others who have been critical of the Chinese government. Another major area is academic espionage. Canada's universities and research institutions are known for cutting-edge work in science, technology, and engineering, areas that align with China's national development goals. Intelligence agencies around the world have raised concerns about technology transfers, talent recruitment programs like the 1,000 Talents Plan, and covert partnerships with Chinese institutions. Finally, there's the issue of diaspora surveillance and influence. Chinese intelligence services, often through local proxies, monitor and sometimes harass members of the Chinese Canadian community, especially those who are vocal critics of the Chinese Communist Party. Community leaders, student organizations, and even consular officials may play a role in shaping political discourse, discouraging dissent, and promoting pro-Beijing narratives. Over the past few years, a number of high-profile cases have brought Chinese interference in Canada into public view. One of the most significant moments came in 2023 when the Globe and Mail published a series of reports based on leaked intelligence from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. These documents allege that Chinese officials had attempted to influence the outcome of the 2019 and 2021 federal elections by supporting preferred candidates and pushing for the Liberal Party of Canada to win the election. Another widely reported case involved Michael Chong, who is a sitting member of parliament in Canada. According to CSIS, a Chinese diplomat in Canada was linked to efforts to intimidate Chong's family members living in Hong Kong in apparent retaliation for his criticism of Beijing's human rights record. This incident sparked a diplomatic dispute, leading to the expulsion of a Chinese official from Canada. A different type of operation surfaced in 2022 and 2023 when several media outlets and human rights groups reported on the existence of clandestine Chinese police stations operating in cities like Toronto and Vancouver. These informal outposts were allegedly used to surveil and pressure Chinese nationals or dissidents living abroad. While China claimed they were administrative centers for expat services, Canadian authorities launched investigations into their true purpose. Finally, there have been ongoing parliamentary inquiries and whistleblower disclosures which continue to reveal the extent of foreign interference in Canada. These investigations have not only highlighted systemic issues, but also raised questions about whether enough has been done to protect Canada's democratic institutions. Beyond these cases, CSIS has also reported on interference in party nomination races, the activities of student groups on university campuses, and concerns over alleged safe houses. In 2024, the government launched a public inquiry into foreign interference, reflecting the growing urgency of the issue. Together, these incidents paint a complex picture of how state-backed influence operations can operate below the surface, often undetected, and with long-term effects on democratic processes. In response to these revelations, Canada has taken a series of steps, but critics argue they've often been reactive rather than proactive. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service has played a central role, producing internal reports and issuing warnings to government officials. But CSIS has limited legal authority to act directly on its intelligence. It's largely up to policymakers to respond. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police has launched several investigations, including into the alleged police stations and election interference. However, these investigations are complex and often face legal hurdles related to privacy, proof, and diplomacy. One of the most visible actions came in May of 2023 when the federal government expelled the Chinese diplomat tied to the intimidation of MP Michael Chong. This move signaled a more assertive stance, but also drew retaliation from Beijing. Canada has also taken steps to strengthen its institutional resilience. For example, during federal elections, the government now uses a Security and Intelligence Threats to Elections Task Force, which brings together CSIS, the RCMP, the Communication Security Establishment, and Global Affairs Canada. This task force is designed to monitor threats in real time and provide warnings if there is an attempt to interfere with the democratic process. There have also been calls for stronger legislation, particularly the creation of a foreign agent registry similar to laws in Australia and the United States, where individuals or entities acting on behalf of a foreign government or other foreign entities are required to register their activities with the government. While proposed, the idea remains under debate due to concerns about civil liberties and implementation. Ultimately, Canada's response reflects the balancing act between protecting democratic institutions and maintaining economic and diplomatic relationships, especially with global powers like China. The issue of foreign interference in Canada is not happening in isolation. Democracies around the world, from Australia to the United States and across Europe, are facing similar challenges from state-backed influence operations, including those originating from China. What sets these operations apart is that they often exploit the open nature of democratic societies, freedom of expression, academic openness, and multicultural political systems. These are strengths, but they can also be used as entry points for covert influence. The broader concern is that repeated, low-visibility interference can gradually erode public trust in institutions, polarize communities, and make it harder for citizens to distinguish between legitimate political debate and manufactured narratives. For Canada, this means that national security is no longer just about physical threats, it's also about informational integrity, electoral transparency, and societal cohesion. Addressing these challenges requires more than just intelligence agencies. It involves journalists, educators, civil society, and an informed public, all working together to maintain the foundations of an open democracy. As Canadians approach the 2025 federal election, concerns about foreign interference, particularly from China, remain prominent. One of the central figures in this election is Mark Carney, former Governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, and current Prime Minister of Canada. Carney has said in the Leaders' Debate that he views China as the biggest threat to Canada, but his actions and associations would say otherwise. Carney's previous role as Vice Chair at Brookfield Asset Management, which is a firm that manages $925 billion globally, and who also has substantial investments in China, has drawn scrutiny. Reports suggest that Carney played a major role in expanding the firm's presence in China, including a meeting with Xi Jinping in 2024 as China sought to strengthen ties with the West. Controversies involving current Liberal MPs have also heightened concerns. In 2025, MP Paul Chang stepped down after comments he made about a former Conservative rival sparked outrage nationwide. Chang told a Chinese-language newspaper that opponent Zhou Tai should be turned over to the Chinese consulate to collect a $183,000 bounty placed on him by the Hong Kong police. Mark Carney refused to fire Paul Chang, claiming that this was a teachable moment. Paul Chang would then be forced to step down after public outrage. Adding further complexity to the situation, Peter WION, the candidate selected to replace Paul Chang as the Liberal nominee in Markham Unionville, has also attracted attention. WION, a former deputy police chief in Toronto, attended a Chinese military parade in Beijing in 2015 commemorating the end of World War II. This event was hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping and organized by China's United Front Work Department. This parade was attended by people like Vladimir Putin, worsening the optics of the situation. In another incident in April of 2025, Alexandra Mendez, the Liberal MP for Brossard St. Lambert in Quebec, hosted a campaign event that drew attention due to the presence of Gigi Li, the executive director of two Montreal area organizations under RCMP investigation for alleged ties to Chinese government operations. These organizations, the Chinese Family Service of Greater Montreal and the South Shore Sino-Quebec Center, have been scrutinized for their potential role as clandestine Chinese police stations. While the MP later claimed that she was unaware of these affiliations, the event underscored how easily suspected influence actors can become embedded in public-facing political spaces. In 2025, reports surfaced indicating that Mark Carney was involved in interactions with individuals linked to Chinese government operations. One notable incident involved Carney's denial of a meeting with the Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada, a group with alleged ties to Beijing. Despite Carney's strong denial, photographic evidence contradicted his statement, showing him engaging with members of the council. Also, in the lead up to the 2025 Canadian federal election, Canadian government officials reported that Chinese state linked actors were amplifying pro Mark Carney content on popular social media platforms such as WeChat and TikTok. Posts featuring Carney's speeches and campaign appearances were widely shared in Mandarin language online communities, often with favorable commentary, framing him as a pragmatic and stable choice for Canadian leadership. Intelligence experts noted that while there is no direct evidence of coordination, the volume and consistency of pro-Carney messaging across Chinese digital spaces appear to align with Beijing's broader strategy of influencing diaspora sentiment and supporting candidates perceived as more diplomatically cautious towards China. The 2025 election has seen renewed scrutiny over Chinese state-linked influence efforts, including through community networks, media messaging, and possible covert support for preferred candidates. Intelligence agencies remain on alert, and both major parties are under pressure to take a firmer stance on transparency and foreign interference. As political landscapes evolve, the role of China and how Canada chooses to engage with or push back against its influence will likely remain a defining issue for years to come. Canada is at a crossroads. As foreign interference, particularly from China, becomes more sophisticated and persistent, the need for vigilance, transparency, and strong institutional safeguards has never been greater. The issue is not about one political party or election cycle, it's about the long term integrity of Canadian democracy, the protection of its communities, and Canadian national security. Understanding how foreign influence operates through community groups, digital messaging, political access, and even business ties is essential to forming an informed public response. This video could have easily been an hour long. I just wanted to keep it somewhat short just to act as sort of a primer and introduction on the topic. We could have talked about many other cases of China meddling in Canada's affairs, things like Operation Sidewinder, which was the report that was finalized in 1998 when CSIS and the RCMP looked at how China and organized crime work together, specifically at ports in Vancouver and stuff like that. That report was allegedly buried by the Liberal government at the time under Jean Chrétien. And basically other things like we could talk about how the Chinese government and organized crime launder money through the Canadian housing market. Could have talked about strange cases of fake protesters like the ones we saw outside of courthouses when the Canadian government arrested Meng Wanzhou after the U.S. government asked them to, and those protesters just end up being supposedly paid to stand outside and hold up signs showing they support her. And you could put two and two together to see what's going on. Most likely, Chinese operatives working in Canada paid them to do that. But something's really got to change in regards to Canadian national security. Canada's been sleepwalking when it comes to their national security. People see Canada as the U.S. neighbor. They're nicer than Americans, that sort of thing. That they're some sort of minor country, but Canada's part of NATO. They're part of G7. They're part of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing pact, which is the most important, most powerful intelligence sharing group in the world, with the U.S., UK, Australia, and New Zealand. But Canada is the only one without a foreign intelligence service. So they have CSIS, but they're basically on the defensive. They play defense most of the time. They basically gather intelligence, pass it on to the RCMP, work with them, or pass it on to politicians and hope for the best. Like we saw in the video, once they pass it on to them, most of the time, nothing happens, and things just get buried. But for a country that says that it prides itself on diversity and multiculturalism, you really gotta protect those kind of things. You can't just say that those things are your strength, and then not do anything to protect it. But other than that, if you guys are more interested in this topic, I highly recommend checking out a investigative journalist named Sam Cooper over at the Bureau. He does a lot of great work on this topic. So definitely go check him out. Other than that, thanks for watching. Hope you guys found this video informative. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.